Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of BluPrints, where I'll teach you how to build anything and everything from a redstone design to a creative build and everything in between. In today's episode, we're going to be learning how to build a shulker loader. Now, you see the design right behind us. You can't see the entire thing, but I'll show you here in just a second. But we've got some buttons and we've got some item frames and we got some items in those chests. When we press those buttons, it will distribute items into a shulker box, and we can designate exactly how many items with this design we want to go into each category, and it's pretty awesome. So let me show you how it works, and then I'll show you how to build it. First, let's take a look at the items that we've got available for us to take along with us on, let's say, for example, we're going on a mining trip. These are some typical items that I would take with me. So we've got a full double chest of torches, baked potatoes, and logs. Now, the nice thing about this design and this system is each of these categories can be selected with different quantities. So this one, for example, will set to have 4 stacks of torches, 2 stacks of food, and 1 stack of logs in case we want to craft up more torches on our journey. But let's go ahead and press these buttons, and then we'll watch the numbers start to climb as we open up our shulker box. Let's check it out. And there you have it. All of our items are ready to go in our shulker box, and sadly, it's not as fast as the clip that you just saw because we did speed it up for editing purposes. We didn't want to make you sit here and wait on the whole thing. You can probably do some other things to get ready for your mining trip while the shulker box is loading up, but it doesn't take too long in the long run. Now, taking a look at the redstone circuitry before we actually start building and showing you how this thing is put together, it looks a little bit intimidating. It looks like a lot, but it's actually broken down into little individual pieces. First, we've got the button trigger that goes all the way down and triggers a hopper clock, which comes back over and triggers a torch tower, which releases the hopper to let items flow through. Fairly simple, not too complicated. Did take a little bit of time for me to come up with this design, and I'll explain why here in just a few minutes. 95% of this is my own creation. I did borrow a small idea from somebody, and we'll mention them here in just a few minutes as we're building this together. The first thing we want to do is throw a hopper on top of our existing hopper line, just like this, and then 2 hoppers flowing into that one that's facing downward. And that's it for the hoppers. And then we'll go over and grab a chest here and throw in a double chest right on top of that, and that system is ready to go. Now we'll go ahead and wire up our torch tower so that the items in this chest don't just flow freely through the hoppers. We want to lock this hopper until we are ready to press the button and distribute the designated number of items. The nice thing about this design is that it is, from a width standpoint, relatively compact, meaning we can tile this thing, create modules, and stack our chests right next to each other without any problem whatsoever. However, from a depth and a height standpoint, it is relatively beefy, so if you're going to build this in your survival world, make sure you've got plenty of room. For our purple torch tower for the next module, we're not going to go all the way down to the ground. You can see that this is tiered up at a diagonal, and we're going to continue that pattern by placing one down here, here, and here, along with redstone torches, just like this. And that's our torch tower. Next, we want to wire up our hopper clock to activate the redstone torch tower when we are ready for it too. So we'll go ahead and place down some concrete right here, delete these couple of placeholder blocks, and then we want a repeater into this block and a comparator into that repeater, just like so. So when our hopper clock comes around and activates this comparator, it will activate this repeater, which will power this block, turning off this torch, turning this torch on, this torch off, and allowing the items to finally flow through this hopper into our shulker box. For our hopper clock, we'll go ahead and place down another temporary block just right there. For the moment, we'll break it in a second with a hopper facing directly into it, and then we'll go up here and place down a couple more temporary blocks just so we're out of the way, break those 2, and then in clock-like fashion, we want these hoppers to be facing into each other, so we will place one there, there, and this last one will have facing this direction. So as we go below it, you can see each hopper is facing into the next one, which will allow items to flow through in a circular pattern. We'll go ahead and test that with one item there, and you should see it flicker back on as it comes around. And we want to lock this because we don't want this to be a consistent flow. We want this to be a button-triggered hopper clock, so we will wire up that circuitry as well. Earlier in the video, I mentioned that about 95% of this build was my own design, and just a little bit of it was taking some inspiration from another content creator. Panda Gaming came up with a button-activated hopper clock with a really cool circuit that we will build here in just a second. The primary difference between my hopper clock and his is that his goes back and forth between 2 hoppers, just like that, and then mine goes in a circular pattern with 4 hoppers. We'll go ahead and place down a block on top of that right there, and then we can make a little L pattern, just like that. And then we want to make sure that we've got a block here, break that temporary block, and then we will go ahead and put another one here, break that temporary block, and that is the basic shape of our circuit. In order to wire this up, we want to place down a redstone torch right there with some redstone dust here and here, which will lock that hopper in place until we are ready to release the items around the clock. Now, in order to keep this from going in an infinite loop, we want to lock them once they get back here as well. So in order to do that, we're going to place down redstone dust here, and then a repeater right there. Then what we want to do is place a comparator down right there, and that is the entire circuit completed. For all intents and purposes, this module is basically done. If we wanted to place a button down here, which I don't know why you would, but you could, we could activate this and start releasing items into the hopper line up there and into our Shulker Box. But we want to be able to release the items from our chests up top, so we'll go ahead and run a redstone line down here in order to make that happen. We've already got our button in place, and we're going to go ahead and place down a block here to get our redstone line started. The thing to be careful with is you don't want redstone touching. For example, if we placed a redstone dust there, this button would activate this line and the red line, and we don't necessarily want items coming out of here if we don't need them, so we got to be very careful with that. To avoid that situation, we'll go ahead and place down a repeater, and then we'll be very careful with how we place our line going forward. And we should be good to go the rest of the way. The last piece here, to get this to transition through this block, we want to just place down a redstone repeater, just like that, and the whole thing should be wired up. To be sure that this works, let's go ahead and press the button, and we can see redstone flashing down there. That is a good sign. Now, this hopper clock is not actually ready to go because there's nothing in it for it to count. So, we've got some junk, we've got some cobblestone, and we're going to place down, let's do 3 stacks. Now, if you did 4, you're safe. If you did 5 stacks, this thing starts going in an infinite loop. So this particular design, you can only go up to 4 stacks of any item that you want to distribute, but anything in the hopper clock, it doesn't matter what it is. It can be cobblestone, it can be item frames, it can be concrete, it can be whatever you want. Just place some random stacks of blocks, full stacks if you want, half stacks if you want, 3 pieces if you want, whatever you want to count. This is totally customizable, up to 4 stacks, maybe a little bit over, but if you go up to 5, it's going to break the system. Now it's time to give this a little bit of a test with actual items in the chest. We've got dirt. A lot of times when I'm going adventuring or caving or going into the end or the nether, I like to take some throwaway blocks with me so I can put a little bit of a breadcrumb trail, so to speak, so that I can get back. So we'll take 3 stacks of these, we'll push the button, and we'll watch them flow on into our Shulker Box. Everything's wired up, everything is working just as it should. We can go down here and watch. The hopper clock is activated. These items are flowing through, sending the signal through as they pass by. And once they get back to this last hopper here, they will stop here until the very last piece comes through, and then they will funnel back into our original hopper, relocking the system, rearming it, getting it ready to go once again. But guys, that's pretty much it for this design. If you have any questions, any comments, any concerns, any suggestions on how we can improve this build, definitely leave those in the comment section. I'm always up for interacting with you guys. Love to hear your feedback. Be sure to leave that in the comment section below, and be sure to come back for another episode of BluPrints. We will see you in the next one. Hey everybody, it's BluJay again. If you haven't seen it yet, be sure to go check out the most recent episode of BluPrints where we build a concrete factory. It's listed for you here at the end screen. Thanks for watching.